going, everyone? Welcome back. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. Middle of the off season, a little training camp action. Preseason coming up pretty quickly here. Let's talk a little Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase comes into the league like a house of fire. 1,400 yards, 18 yards per reception, was taking a top off of defenses game in and game out. And then teams said, hold up, wait a minute. Let's figure out what we can do here. Let's game plan. Let's find a way to slow this man down a little bit. So you started seeing the bracket coverage, the bracket double teams the Bengals were receiving on T. Higgins, on Jamar Chase here these past couple of seasons. Seeing the numbers drop a little bit down to about 12 yards per reception. Meanwhile, though, Bengals finding more and more ways to get Jamar Chase the football. Last season, 143 targets, over 100 receptions, most in his career. So the volume's gone up. Chase is finding more and more ways to get open. The Bengals are finding more and more ways to get this man to football. Again, we're just seeing teams kind of force them to use Chase underneath more often, more across the middle of the field, more lower yardage situations that he can potentially bust open for a big gain. That being said, accounting for all of that, thinking about his potential, thinking about what teams have been doing, I do think this is the year we see Jamar Chase have gonna be crazy to say this one, a breakout season. And we say it's crazy because, you consider he's already regarded as one of the best in the league at what he does. And we're saying he's going to break out. And the best comparison I got for this is I'm thinking Tyreek Hill. If you think of what Tyreek Hill did in Kansas City, he was a great player. Kansas City said, hey, I don't know if, we should pay this man this kind of money. I think Patrick can do it without him. And he did. He found a way to do it without him, but he wasn't putting up the numbers he was putting up in Miami. He wasn't seeing the volume in Kansas City he was Miami. I still remember it now, as when his fantasy football season was like, hey, we're gonna stay away from Tyreek because he just too many times during the season he'll put up some duds. 3-4 times a year he sees a couple receptions, and that's just because that's what happens when you have a good quarterback that spreads the football around and teams decide to slow you down. But what we also seen was he went over to Miami, different scheme, different offense, and they found ways to get this man open. And they said, hey, even with Waddle on the other side, even though we know he's your best, we're going to find ways to get him open. And he torched teams, and he's been lighting it up. Best numbers of his career in Miami. And now we go back to Jamar Chase, and we look at what could be in Cincinnati this season. I do question if Brian Callahan was slowing down this Bengals offense. I think Joe Burrow is coach-proof. He's that kind of quarterback. Don't matter who's back there, he's going to put up numbers. He's going to find a way to win football games. But I do think there is that sort of chemistry, that sort of combination between your OC and your quarterback and your head coach and all that, your players, that can really lift and elevate your team. And we thought this Bengals offense was going to be dynamic. It was going to be lethal throughout the season, even last season prior to the injury. You've seen some stagnant, some anemic parts of the offense during games. Again, Joe Burrow is your quarterback. He's going to find a way to take the reins and win football games. We see it time and time again. It's like, well, all of a sudden, when Joe Burrow is kind of in control of the offense, 2-minute drills, situations of that nature, things click. And when you see it often like that, you wonder, hey, you bring in a different mind. A guy like Dan Pitcher that was, hey, look what he did with quarterbacks. I think this offense excels. I think they do better under Pitcher, especially in year number 1. Because everybody, again, they had the game plan, bracket them. Bengals, they forced them to beat you underneath. They didn't have it. The Bengals offense did not have a schematic answer to what defenses were really doing to them. You bring in Pitcher, again, fresh mind in the system, but fresh mind. Likely to bring some new ideas, some new things teams haven't seen. So now all of a sudden you play the AFC North, you play 6 times a year. They don't have as much of a game plan for what your offense is going to try to do to them. Well, we remember what happened when defenses did not have as much of a game plan on what to do against Joe Burrow and company. Remember, he was lighting up Cleveland for 300. He threw over 500 against Baltimore the one season. 500, 400, right? Bengals, they're capable of it. It just felt like, is there a potential there where maybe there's an adjustment phase? And you say, okay, now it's going to take time once again to get that adjustment phase. Or does the Bengals offense just click, 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 and click? Because not only are we going to see that I think is going to have Jamar Chase kind of not revitalized, but kind of Flashback to what we've seen his rookie year where he's knocking off big touchdown after big touchdown. I think we see more of that. But you also look at what's around him. You still got T. Higgins contract year. Jamar Chase, technically his contract year. We say that because, you expect him to get paid with that 5th-year option coming up next season. And the Bengals want to keep him around. So it's like, what you do this season is going to have a big impact on what you get next season. So, there's that extra motivation. But now, T. Higgins, same story. Extra motivation, contract year. He continues to be a decoy, a distraction for teams where it's like, hey, we can't just single cover T and only worry about Jamar. That helps out Jamar. And then you bring in the wild card out of Alabama, Jermaine Burton. And this man just seems like he's got all the abilities in the world to be something special. All of a sudden, the Bengals have 3 lethal weapons. They had Tyler Boyd before. Tyler Boyd, great player, great in the slot. But all of a sudden, now you bring in Jermaine Burton, another guy that is a deep threat. Another guy that adds versatility to the inside, to the outside of this offense. And another guy, more importantly, defenses now have to worry about. Again, he's going to have to earn that respect. That's not going to, he's going to get all the time in the world to, one-on-one early in the season. But if it comes to a point in time where he becomes what we all expect he can become, again, headaches. And I think Jamar is always going to get those looks. That's always going to be the Bengals' number 1, and that's always going to be the guy the second that, Burrow sees any sort of close to favorable matchup he's going his way. Things Jamar Chase is going to benefit from this season. And we look at last season. Again, we talked about Jamar getting the football more, Joe Burrow throwing him the rock more. When Joe Burrow was quarterback before he went down with the injury, Chase was seeing right around 10 targets a game on average. Big numbers. Again, pace for 170 on the season. Love to see that. And I think you look at that this season, you scratch your head, you wonder. I mean, if he sees 170, there's a good chance he sees 1,700 in the air. We're going to project a little bit lower than that, even though, again, I think this is the year. It could be Jamar's best year of his career. Explosive year. Really looking forward to what this man can do this season. I'm going to say 115 receptions. 1,587 yards, 10 touchdowns for Jamar Chase. Love the y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.